So once upon a time in Black entrepreneur history, there was an African-American man named Frank McWorter. He was born around 1777 in Union, South Carolina. And he became the first African-American who founded an incorporated town in the United States of America. That town was called New Philadelphia, Illinois. Let's get into it. So Frank was born to an enslaved woman who was kidnapped off the west coast of Africa from an unknown country. The person who she was sold to ended up getting her pregnant. His name was George McWorter. And when her son was born, he was enslaved too. That goes back to the womb law. Born to an enslaved black woman, you stay enslaved, despite your father being white. So yeah, this was Frank's father. And no, this was not a loving relationship. This was a property relationship. In order to gain free labor, it was common practice for white men to rape black women to gain more work hands at birth. Anyway, they moved to the state of Kentucky, where George would lease out his son Frank for work to other white men. This is how he would get paid. Well, eventually, little Frank started keeping some of that money, and he learned a lot of skills working for all those people. And he knew exactly why he was saving that money, because one day he was going to buy his freedom. One day he was left at the farm. Well, his slave-owning father went away. That's when he started producing saltpeter. This is used for gunpowder. His saltpeter operation flourished and got him money. Now, he saved his money for years, purchasing the freedom of the woman he loved, Lucy. He purchased her freedom first, because he wanted no more of their children to be born enslaved. And it was a couple of years after 1817 that he bought his own freedom. With that freedom, he renamed himself. His name was now Free Frank. So now that he, his family were free, they all decided to move to Illinois. Once there, they began farming. And in 1836, Frank had an idea. He decided to buy a plot of land, 80 acres of it. He bought it for about $100, which is about $3,000 in today's money. Then he decided to split the land up in about 144 lots, built his own house on one of the lots, and then sold the rest of the lots to anyone who wanted to pay for a spot in the new community, black people or white people. Because of this, Free Frank became the first African-American founder of a town in the United States of America. New Philadelphia was born. Not only was it the first black-founded town, but it was the first black-founded integrated town and incorporated municipality. But even in all that, Frank needed more rights. He didn't have a legal name, so he had to go before the Illinois legislature and get a legal name, like white men. His name ended up Frank McWorter. Now, remember I told you that he and his family were free? Well, he had older children who were not free. They were adults and they didn't live with him at the time. So what did he do with that money? He went and freed the rest of them. He passed away on September 7th, 1854. But before he died, he ended up purchasing the freedom of 15 of his other relatives. New Philadelphia thrived from 1836 to 1885. Boss.